And you walk on the track, and you see a corner and realize that you just took it with 260 kilometers per hour. Do you think, who could be so stupid to drive that fast in a corner? But if you sit in a car, you don't think about it at all. Usain Bolt, the fastest man alive, who won 9 gold medals in the last 3 Olympic Games. Guess how many fans he has? Millions? Guess how much traffic his site will have and how he actually built his site. It's built with WordPress. And WordPress is the future. And that already since 10 years. Just kidding. But honestly, it's the most popular way of building websites ever. Born back in 2003, now at the age of 13, it's kind of the iPod of website development. Can you believe that? So, come on, who uses WordPress? These celebrities, they do. And as you can imagine, they get huge amounts of traffic. Have you ever heard of the Justin Bieber effect? You can ask Florian Leibert, the CEO from Mesosphere, about it. He worked for Twitter back then. And Justin Bieber caused several outages of Instagram and also issues at Twitter because of his 88 million followers. So how can you build a site that survives that much traffic? But, okay, these are celebrities. Now let's talk business. What about companies doing real stuff? Not blogs or so, real websites, dynamic content. Well, here, these are all very well-known companies, like CNN, for example. And as you can see, I took these screenshots one by one 2 days ago, and you see the battle between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. So it's all dynamic, all up-to-date, updated frequently. So, but I often ask myself, come on, WordPress is uncool. When will it eventually die? But instead, it's growing. And grows and grows. Some love it, some might hate it, but there's no doubt that it exceeds all other web development tools and frameworks by far. And every 4th website in the world is built with WordPress. To be precise, 26.6% of all websites worldwide are WordPress. And by the way, does anybody of you know how many websites are in the world? Any clue? Bam! 1 billion sites in the world. Isn't that crazy? Whoops. The web is growing, continuously growing. If you go at Internet Live Stats, then you see the counter, and it's going really, really fast. So it's growing like the universe, and maybe will eventually collapse somewhere. Don't you think? So how many of you run an e-commerce shop? We can't. There are some hands. I'm somehow seeing the light here. It's so strong. And who uses WordPress for e-commerce? Oh, there are some hands. Nice. Okay. I thought it would be less. But yeah, it shouldn't be a surprise because 38% of all online stores worldwide are built with WordPress, with WooCommerce as a plugin. So, but WordPress isn't the only one. And now you might expect maybe Node.js and all this cool stuff that we are talking here on this conference. But actually, no, it's WordPress, it's Drupal, and it's Joomla. And afterwards, there's still Magento. I know a lot of people hate Magento, but it's still on the 4th place. And Blogger on the 5th place for just blogs. But let's talk about speed. Real speed. Who builds the fastest websites on Earth? What do you think? I'm sure you think of Facebook, Google, Twitter, and you're right. That's 3. But if we look at the top 1,000 or top 10,000, the picture looks different. The top 10,000 websites in the world based on traffic, more than 50% of them are Drupal. And 25% are WordPress. And there's still a big portion Joomla. So Node.js here. Not Node.js here. So the main question is now how to get WordPress as fast as a Formula 1 car. WordPress on LSD? We need more speed. And the answer is more speed requires more drugs, more hardware. And like a super fast Drupal cluster uses as well. Now, let's get into more technical things and see how that works. All right, running a WordPress on multiple machines. Is there anybody in this room who did that before? Marko, you as well. Somebody else? 1? Good. Yeah, no worries. After this talk, you know exactly how it works and you can do it yourself. All right. So we run WordPress on a lot of machines to give real speed. First, we need several servers on which WordPress runs on and a load balancer to distribute the load between these servers. And a shared database for the WordPress data. That's obvious. Okay. But now we want to have also the uploads that you upload to WordPress, like pictures or files, somewhere. So, and that improves the performance of the whole system by putting the standard content on a file storage. And so we do not have to bother the web server for these tasks. And that saves storage, money, and gives better performance. Next step, it will be even faster if we bring files as close as possible to the end user. And if you run an international eShop with different countries or so, then you definitely want to use a content delivery network, so a CDN, like Akamai or like CloudFront. And that reduces latency a lot and makes your site much, much faster. And additionally, we can cluster our database to avoid single point of failures and speed the database up as well. All right. Easy peasy. Let's have a look at development. How the hell do we actually deploy all that? Manually? Holy shit. No, definitely not. We use Docker for this purpose. And this is a developer conference, right? So I assume that you're all at least aware of Docker. And Docker has an incredible advantage of shipping apps and doing things reproducible. And that means that I create a Docker image with my WordPress once, and I can ship it and spin it up as often as I want. Cool. And Docker is, meanwhile, by the way, the most exciting technology that we currently see. And was published in 2013. And it accelerated directly from 2015. It has had 13% market share now to over 30%. That means that 30% of IT companies worldwide use already Docker, and another 35% are planning to do so. But okay, we don't talk about Docker here. It's not a talk about Docker. That would probably take another hour. We could do that next time. Let's just take it, package our WordPress into Docker containers, and instantiate this container on several machines. And now it's getting exciting. But before we go into practice, and Marko shows you how that works in real life and how you can do that, let's talk a bit about some theory. Who of you has heard about one of the hottest trends currently that's called immutable infrastructure? You see somebody? I have to get out the light. No? Okay. Immutable infrastructure, or also called immutable server or Phoenix servers, That's a really cool technology or an approach. And immutable means you cannot change anything. In German, we say unveränderlich. And that means that if you deployed something once, you do not change it anymore. But wait, if you deploy it once and do not change it, how do you do updates? How do you install security patches? How do you actually make changes on your site? You don't. At least not on the same instance. What you do is, you just create your new site with all the patches and all changes on new machines, route the traffic to it, and delete the rest. As easy as that. So now I could talk about another hour why immutable infrastructure is great and why you should use it, but that would be also another talk. So let's skip it for now and just take it and see in a small glimpse what that looks like. But first, let's take an infrastructure like here, AWS, for now, the ultimate Swiss knife for developers with its large ecosystem. Okay, sometimes you cut yourself or shoot in your knee. But we from Plesk, we say we have the philosophy that if somebody wants to shoot in his knee, we have to make sure that they hit the target precisely. But certainly you can do also the same thing with different cloud service providers like Google Compute Platform or like Microsoft Azure, so completely up to you. Or you could do it also yourself on-premise with OpenStack or whatever. We take now Amazon because it's the most popular. Good. Let's have a look at this chart. You see there's a WordPress application reachable via janswordpress.com and it's deployed as version myapp1 as a Docker container on 3 hosts, so EC2 instances. And the load is distributed by the Elastic Load Balancer. And these instances they are stateless. That means that they don't change anything on the local file system. And if you upload a file, if you're in WP admin or so, then this file is directly replicated to S3 storage, to the file storage. So there's nothing that is only specific on that one. And sessions, for example, are kept in a database that is shared. All right. So if you now want to install a patch or change anything on the site, then you create a whole new stack with a new site, again scaling across several instances, and you shape the traffic slowly to the other side. And then you can try it out and see, okay, just with some percentage of your users, if they like it or not, if this is better, if your conversion rate increases. And if it does and all is fine, then you give it 100% of the traffic, and afterwards you kill the old versions just to save some money. It's like switching the light off if you leave a room. So just do that. If you don't, then your Amazon Web Services bill will be high. So, and let's look into some instances. We have a multi-layer system here, multi-layer model that provides more flexibility and high security for us. And you see we have the virtual machine where that's called EC2 on Amazon, as you might know. And we use several components of Amazon, like CloudFront as the content delivery network, CloudWatch for alarming and monitoring, AutoScaling, and so on. And in EC2, there's a base image running, the AMI, that contains already then the Docker runtime, logging, monitoring, and our security config that we put in. Then we have the Docker container that's loaded by the image. That contains then, for example, a Debian, Nginx, PHP 7, and so on. And on top of that, we run our application, which is in this case WordPress. But you could take this talk and do it with another CMS or your own application if you like. Well, now, I don't know what about you, but from my perspective as a developer, I wish that it's as easy as calling one single API at Amazon Web Services and my WordPress is up and running and scales across multiple machines and all fine. AWS would pull my image from the Docker registry. And that's it. Sounds cool, right? Marko, I want to show us how easy it is.
Easy? How is it easy? Like, you have a lot of things to do, so it's not simple an image that needs to be installed. You need to do way more.
I thought Amazon Web Services is easy.
Well, if you select, like, the WordPress image, like, they have so much images there, yes, then it's really easy, but you want to auto-scale. So there's way more components involved than just an EC2, and you have it up and running.
All right, then show me.
Thanks. So in reality, it looks more like this image, like a lot of cables flying around. You need to do way more stuff. Like you need to have your load balancer that need to be connected to your web service. Those web servers are connected to your database. And in between, there are way more stuff involved as well. Like we want to auto-scale it. So there needs to be some triggers that says, if the web servers are really busy, then increase the amount of web servers. So there's a lot of things that needs to be done, and every single component needs multiple API calls to get things done. So for example, EC2, the web server, has 210 calls you can choose from. And a lot of those calls we even had to use in our own project because we have to create an EC2s, or we need to kill them, we need to see if they're up and running, ask for log files. So a lot of things going on, and EC2 is just the start of this ride. We have way more, like we have the load balancer, the ELB. We have RDS, what is the database? We have CloudWatch for monitoring, Route 53 for DNS, CloudFront for the CDN part, and a lot of things going on. But hey, there's help, guys and girls. Let me introduce the Plesk WordPress AWS scaler. And with the Plesk WordPress AWS scaler.
Plesk WordPress AWS scaler? How crazy is that word? Come on, that's not a product name here.
Well, you choose it, so.
Me? That was me. You can't build a 3-letter acronym out of it.
You can always try.
What should that be? PVA or so? PVAS? No, come on, we have to find a new name.
Well, that's up for the next time. Like,
okay.
So the fun and the cool part is we built this open source on GitHub. We have a Docker image you can install yourself on Docker in the hub, and we have a bash script that sets everything up for you. Well, here's the URL. Take a picture now or write it down, and we'll see you later. And well, please check it out if you're really interested in playing with AWS. I see still one guy taking pictures. Be fast. So here again, we have the same image, except the only change here is that where the API was, we now have our manage-WordPress bash script, which sets up the whole infrastructure with like a lot of API calls to make it easy for you. You can walk away, drink a coffee, and when you're back, your site is up and running. So before all the magic, here's our amazing tool. So as you can see, we have multiple calls. You can easily create one. You can update it. So if you have a new Docker image, you can use that. We can delete it. You can even scale it manually. So instead of like running it on 1.2 server, you can say like, let's give it a swing and run it on 10 different instances. We have the console to get like the log files back. And well, you can get the config or the list to see like, okay, what's up and running, like what kind of components are currently being used. So yeah, let's start by looking at how the create procedure works. So as you can see, there are many steps involved, from creating your security groups, from auto-scaling it that generates EC2s for us. As you can see, many steps are involved, and it's not a simple environment anymore. Like, so it takes a little bit of time for us, but if you have that bash script, like if you want to test run it, you create one, and it's up and running for you as fast as it can. Too quick? Here's how it internally works. So we, in our project, used AWS CLI command. This helps us writing way less code if we would have done it manually, and it gives us a lot of freedom to do new stuff. on the GitHub, we have our best command, so we clone that, and we can run it. And when you create your own Docker image, you also need to build it and then push it towards Docker so you can use it in the script so your website, your own website, is up and running. So, for example, how many commands it takes? Here's a short overview of the components to just list them. As you can see, there's already more than 10 calls that need to be done to just get a good overview of your components. And some of those commands don't even have a filter. So you need to do way more things to get the right list for this project alone. So if you use AWS a lot, you will have way bigger lists than you rather want to see. And again, the same goes for create new resources. And this is a little bit more, even more trickier because you have to pass variables. Some of those components, like CloudFront, are depending on having S3. So there needs to be a good flow, and that the dependencies are they are dealt with. For example, like if you look at when you want to create a new launch configuration, which is a little bit tricky, it takes a lot of code. Like we want to create our own user data. So the user data in AWS is a script that getting run when the Docker when the EC2 gets created. This needs to be passed through, and as you see, like that's quite a lot of parameters that are going passed by because WordPress has a database. WordPress has a username, password, but it also has an S3. So a lot of things flying around, but at least it's really easy to get your WordPress site up and running in the way you want it to be. And you have to love JSON. So by default, it always returns JSON. And sometimes you even have to submit JSON to get things done. So for example, with CloudFront, if you want to disable it, you have to send the whole JSON file to say, like, I want to disable it. I can't complain too much because this component is still in development, but it isn't always as easy to say, like, to the CLI, like, CloudFront disable, and it will do it for you. It takes a little bit more time. But as you can see, with all this stuff, it's really amazing to have something like this and have your WordPress website up and running really fast within AWS within a few seconds. And Jan will now tell a little bit about the performance.
All right, good. So we made a small WordPress cup, and yesterday we had our race day 1, and we compared the results of a single WordPress running on one machine with local database, which is, by the way, for few visitors maybe an advantage because of less network, and compared it with AutoScaling. And what you can see here, it's not the maximum that you can do, obviously. And the important thing here is we didn't want to cheat. We wanted to have pure power. So not using a Porsche or so who's good on the track. We wanted to have a muscle car, right, with much power but less intelligence. So no caching here. No memcache, no varnish. With that, you can speed up your site dramatically. But we said, no, let's execute PHP all the time and do the database requests. No caching here. Really, let's see how it scales. And as you can see, there's a clear winner, obviously. And we just stopped at 1,000 requests per second here with the fastest call in 99 milliseconds. And yeah, an average of 1.45 seconds. Yeah, now you might think, okay, my web server answers faster. Well, we measured from customer side, so with network latency in between. So that's the performance that the customer really sees in the browser. And if your site loads in less than 3 seconds, you're good. Now, wasn't that easy? Our mission at Plesk is simply to simplify the lives of web professionals by automating their processes and reducing complexity. And today, you've seen how Docker works on one hand, and helps you shipping the app. What immutable infrastructure is, or immutable servers, and how to use them, and how to get your WordPress site on AWS by using AutoScaling functions. And the main thing for you to remember is, if your site has lots of traffic and many concurrent visitors, and you have to deal with them, then, and it doesn't scale anymore, you can rebuild the site with Node.js, with Java, with Scala or Go or whatsoever you want to do. But probably this doesn't solve your issue. If you want to have real speed, you need to scale across multiple servers. And therefore, you often do not have to rewrite the whole application. If your application can be deployed statelessly and supports autoscaling, and your infrastructure does, then you get the real speed. And then, as we've seen yesterday in a talk from Marko from Stack Overflow, you can really tune then and specialize and optimize your whole stack for high performance, but still you need several machines. And racing in Formula 1 is not and will not ever be a single server approach. If you have questions about this project, or you want to know how it's done internally step by step, we're really happy to answer that. And so we would love if you check out our repository, try it out, give us feedback, or take action and definitely start contributing. And for all the Plesk users in this room, we are already working on a Plesk extension for the WordPress scaler. So in a few weeks, you can just go to your Plesk UI and say, OK, create new WordPress, assign your AWS account, and boom, there it is. And you can delete it and update it as often as you want. Like magic. So stay tuned. Getting your website as fast as Usain Bolt? Easy. Look, it's just 5 concurrent users. But if you want success, if you want real success and a lot of users, you want maximum speed. Remember the Justin Bieber effect? So when you walk through your website architecture and you wonder who could be so stupid to test it with 10,000 parallel requests per second? If you want to be successful and play in the first league, it's important to think about it before your traffic increases.
Thank you.
Great. Are there any questions? If there are, somebody has to speak up because I can't see. Nope. Then otherwise, just come by, speak to us. We're happy to show you the source code, happy to help you with your WordPress or whatever application and show how it can speed up. And then enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you for listening.
See you.